If you play acoustic drums and you're thinking about picking up an electronic drum set, there are 4 major advantages you need to know about. That's coming up. What's up guys, Justin Greenwald here, welcome to 65 Drums. This is the place to keep on top of all things Edrum related, so consider subscribing if you haven't yet. There are a bunch of guys that subscribe to this channel, they don't even play electronic drums. They're acoustic drummers, and they're thinking about possibly picking up an electronic drum set, but they're not quite sure if it's worth the money or what they should buy. In this video, I'm gonna go over 4 things that electronic drums have going for them that acoustic drums just don't. Let's start off with number 1, the big, obvious one. Volume control. Electronic drums have a drastic noise reduction over acoustic drums. Now, don't let anyone tell you that electronic drums are whisper quiet. They're not quiet at all. In the end, you're still taking a stick and you're hitting a piece of rubber, a piece of metal, a mesh drum. Electronic drums are not silent at all, but they are drastically quieter than acoustic drums. And this is the one thing that brings people to electronic drums every single time. It brings them over to electronic drums kicking and screaming. The first time you play at midnight will be a revelation. You'll just be in shock that you're drumming at midnight. I remember the first time I did that. It opens up the amount of hours you can practice in a day. You know how it is. You got an acoustic drum set and you think to yourself,
okay, so my roommate is leaving at 8 a.m. But then my neighbor gets back from his night shift, so that means I can't practice till 2 p.m. or maybe...
You gotta be strategic when you play acoustic drums. With electronic drums, you can choose nearly any hour of the day, unless it's like really late at night, and it will work for you. All right, let's move on to advantage number 2. You have ultimate sonic flexibility. It is absolutely insane. You can get whatever sound you want in the entire world with electronic drums. Here's the caveat. If you go buy a $500 electronic drum set, don't think that you're gonna get an incredible drum sound. In fact, most drum modules on most drum sets don't sound that good until you start like spending a lot of money. So the way people get around this is they'll usually buy a cheaper electronic drum set and pair that with Superior Drummer 2. That way they get really good sound and they're not paying that much for the hardware itself. Now, of course, the more you spend, the better the drum set is, the better the drum module sounds, the better the playing surface, the triggering might get a little bit better. So there's a lot of options to consider. But the fact is, whatever sound you want, you can get it if you try hard enough. Even if you don't like a single sound inside of your drum module of the electronic drum set you buy, you can use USB MIDI or MIDI out going to a laptop, triggering Easy Drummer or Addictive Drums or Steven Slate Drums or Superior Drummer 1, 2, 3. Like, there are unlimited possibilities. You might have to do some mixing, you might have to learn some stuff, but if you have a sound you're going for, if you put in the work, you can achieve it. And it's really something to get that perfect sound. It's really hard to achieve a perfect sound on an acoustic drum set in a recording. I know they sound great in person and they feel great to play, but when you record them, it's hard to get that really good sound. With an acoustic drum, if you want to achieve a certain snare sound, you literally have to go buy that snare sound. With an electronic drum set, you just go select the snare drum you want in the drum software or your drum module. You do some editing, you do some compression, some EQ, and you can achieve that sound with enough work. There are tons of times where someone walks into a building where a band is warming up, the drummer's playing an electronic drum set. If he's using the right gear, the person that walks in and hasn't seen the drum set yet will think it's an acoustic drum set. Again, there's a certain amount of money you have to pour in to make that happen, and there's a certain amount of knowledge that you have to achieve, but it is possible, and that's how far electronic drum sets have advanced. Advantage number 3. This is a personal one for me because I had always wanted to play EDM dance sounds. I wanted to play dubstep sounds. They put those sounds in the drum module in very obvious places because they know drummers love to hear those sounds. I have tons of experience with this because every time someone sits down on one of my electronic drum sets, they go in the module, they're playing with some of the acoustic sounds, and then when they find like the electronic sound section with all those EDM sounds, their faces light up because they've never been able to play those sounds before, and they have tons of fun. Again, you're not going to use them every day. You're going to be using them in limited instances, but it is a ton of fun. It's just something you have to try. Advantage number 4. This is the fact that with an electronic drum set hooked up to your laptop via just a MIDI cable, you can record a professional drum part as fast as you can nail it. This means if you have a client that wants a drum part tonight, all you got to do is turn on your laptop, your drum module, plug in that USB cable to the laptop, If you can nail it in one take, you can literally send him the drum part via email, like an MP3 file, and a MIDI file on top of that within 10 minutes, if you can nail it in one take. There are plenty of professional drummers out there that do this, they just never talk about it, because it's not that exciting to say, oh, I have a Roland TD-11, it's not that fancy or anything, but I plug it into my laptop, a client wants a drum part, I just drum it, I send him the MP3, I send him the MIDI data, and then he does whatever he wants with it. And I did all this in a half an hour. And the beauty of MIDI, of course, is that you can actually alter your drumming after the fact if you want to. Let's go into the myths section, just telling you exactly what's really gonna happen, not trying to make this more awesome than it actually is. What is really gonna happen if you're out there buying an electronic drum set today? If you want a halfway decent electronic drum set that's like good for beginners and practice and stuff, usually you'll want to spend about $800. That's when like the semi-decent stuff happens. Anything before that, you can get cheaper stuff than $800, but you're not really going to be incredibly satisfied with what you're getting. For the truly nice electronic drum sets, those are going to be nearer $2,000 to $3,000, and that's where you're going to get into the really nice stuff. So just keep that in mind. And then the best of the best is nearer $7,000. You can actually convert your acoustic drums into an electronic drum set with a couple of rubber cymbals, some mesh drum heads, triggers, and a drum module, and a bunch of cables. So there's unlimited possibilities here, but just realize if you're gonna get a really nice electronic drum set, you're gonna have to spend some money. There are plenty of guys that go buy something that just looks too good to be true and it ends up breaking on them, or just sounds like utter crap, or maybe the triggering performance isn't quite good enough. You gotta spend money to get the nice stuff, and electronic drums aren't necessarily cheap. Another myth is that you can hit electronic drums as hard as you want because they're electronic drums and they're quiet. The problem is you're still hitting something with a stick. So you can't play at absolute full volume if it's late at night, or if there are people living next to you and it's a really thin wall. Or maybe if you're on the third floor, people below you will still be able to hear you. And a lot of people buy an electronic drum set, they hit it with like all of their might, and then they wonder why people are still yelling at them. So keep that in mind as well. Another keep it real thing about electronic drums is that if you go buy drum software right now and you hook it up with your laptop, there is a learning curve. There's still stuff you gotta figure out. You're gonna have to watch some tutorials, especially if you buy like a VST where you have to mix the drums yourselves, like in Superior Drummer. There are presets, but a lot of times you'll probably end up mixing all the drums yourself. If you don't want to go through all that work, go buy something like Steven Slate drums, or maybe Addictive drums, where the processing is already done for you. Another keep it real thing about VSTs is that you're gonna have to wrestle with the hi-hat controls to make sure that it's triggering smoothly. And if you don't have like an audio MIDI interface, you're gonna be dealing with latency. Even if you use something like the ASO for all driver, you're still gonna hear a little bit of latency. A latency workaround that some guys use is that they'll play the part with their headphones plugged into the drum module, and they forget about the VST sounds until after the recording's done. And then they'll use the VST sounds and mix them and edit them and stuff, just so that their brain isn't thrown off by a tiny little bit of latency. All I'm trying to say is that electronic drums are not perfect. Every single instrument you use, every single route you go, there's gonna be challenges with using that method. Electronic drums aren't perfect, but I feel like the good vastly outweighs the bad. You get ultimate sound control. You can create whatever sound you want, electronic or acoustic. You can record professionally within minutes and then email it to the client right away. And you can also play at midnight. One other thing to keep in mind is that you're not chained to this electronic drum set. If you don't want to play it, you don't have to play it, and you can still play acoustic and electronic. You can transfer between the two. And you can just use electronic drums as a practice tool if you buy like a cheaper one, or you can even use them on the road if you want, if you buy a nice enough one. They're just a tool. You can use them for whatever you want to do. We need to get out of the mentality of thinking about, is acoustic drums better than electronic drums? Well, I mean, they're both good at separate things. Stop worrying about whether this one's better than this one. Just use them both. That's the best of both worlds. Use both of them for their strengths. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful. Thank you so much for watching. If you got questions, leave them in the comments down below. I can't reply to every single one anymore. I used to back when this channel had 5,000 subscribers, but I'll try to reply to as many as I can. Anyway, hope you guys have an awesome day. See you in a few.